Peter Doocy once again has White House officials fumbling through their words. Democrats have done a terrible job of running New York City, and U.S. economy is lagging behind others. All that and more here on The Bald Brad Show. Welcome to The Bald Brad Show. It is Wednesday, July 27th. We are making our way through this week. And as always, I couldn't be more than happy to share these fine mornings with all of you, my friends and true American patriots, where we can come together, go over the stories of the day, and bring you all the news and information you need to know about. So as always, if you want to join us here at The Bald Brad Show and you're over at YouTube, hit that like and subscribe button. If you're watching over at Rumble, hit the plus to give us a comment down below. And if you're listening on any of the podcast airwaves, Apple, Google, Spotify, etc., leave us a lovely 5-star review. Not only would you be supporting conservative, but you'd be helping getting conservative thought and ideas out there to new viewers who haven't seen our content or our channel. So your help and support would be greatly appreciated. With that being said, we have a lot of videos for you today, folks. We have Peter Doocy just completely making White House admin fumble and stumble through their words. We have crazy things going on in New York City. Crime is going through the roof. We have a video clip of a young man fighting with police officers, and I mean like an all-out brawl. Then we also have, I don't even know what you would call it, a party or what, where these New Yorkers are putting like slip and slides in the subway system, and they're wearing like thongs and they're drinking alcohol and they're twerking on each other as if it's like some strip club. It's the oddest thing. So New York is just going down the drain. Just the other day, we talked about how they're complaining about the illegal immigrants that are having a massive influx in their infrastructure, and they're complaining about it. Furthermore, we also have the U.S. economy kind of going down. They don't want to call it a recession, but it is a recession. And now we're lagging behind other major countries. So a lot of news to cover. Again, a lot of videos. But let's start with our lead story of the day regarding Peter Doocy cornering the White House team over Biden not following CDC and COVID guidelines while he's positive. So it's truly astonishing, him pointing out the hypocrisy of what the White House is doing. And we see this all the time from politicians. We see this all the time from the Democrat Party, where they put in these guidelines that they themselves don't even follow. See, they're the kings, we're the peasants. We have to follow whatever they say. And if we don't, there's consequences, like you going to jail, you getting a citation, you getting a violation, you getting your business shut down. But when the president does it, right? When the Democrat Party, the leftists do it, nothing happens to them. No violations, nobody gets fired, nobody gets fined, nobody gets thrown in jail. Everything's fine, everything's A-okay. And then when you highlight the contradiction, when you highlight the hypocrisy, oh, you know, he's doing this, he's doing that, it's truly a sight to be seen, folks. So without further ado, let's go ahead and roll the clip with Peter Doocy making this man just completely stumbling and fumbling his words.
To follow up on Dr. O'Connor not being here, is this a situation where Dr. O'Connor does not want to come and talk about the president's health, or where the president doesn't want Dr. O'Connor talking about his health?
I will tell you, I have spoken both to the president and to Dr. O'Connor on an ongoing basis, and neither of them has expressed a preference on either. Dr. O'Connor has not at any point said he doesn't want to come. The president has not at any point said he does not want Dr. O'Connor to come. So I would say neither of those is correct.
Okay.
It is a little odd, right, that they're not chauffeuring out the president's doctor to take questions from the press. When Donald Trump got COVID, that doctor was out there like every hour, right, in front of the hospital. It is so weird that they're playing telephone where this guy's the middleman here between Biden and the doctor and the press. Why not just chauffeur out the doctor? Why not just have that be firsthand right there with your source? And it's also a problem, too, because this guy's gotten things wrong. He's literally said things and the press goes, well, you said this. The doctor sent out a letter to all of us that said this. So which is it? And it just creates more confusion where if you just got the doctor out there to answer everyone's questions, which would make kind of sense, right? Rather than having this guy, well, I talked to the doctor, I talked to Joe and all these things. We don't, quite frankly, we don't care about you, man. You're just the middleman. Nobody cares about the middleman. We want to see the primary source, which is the doctor. Look, the real reason why they're probably not having that guy chauffeured out is because everyone knows that the cognitive ability question, the head of where Joe Biden's at, is going to ask, and he's not going to answer it, which is going to alarm everybody. It's going to raise a lot of questions, and that's just going to be where the next news story is at, where if they don't chauffeur him out, then they can't really ask those questions because nobody expects this knucklehead to know everything. Maybe it's wrong of me to call him a knucklehead. he's not answering the questions fully. He is dodging certain things, and you're about to see that happen right now regarding Joe Biden not following the CDC guidelines and Peter Doocy calling it out. Let's roll it.
And you said again today that the president is following the CDC guidelines very strictly. It seems like there are people in the residence taking his photo with no mask on. I was looking at the guidance for COVID positive people. I don't see any carve outs
Peter's giddy
for something like that. So is he really following the CDC guidelines?
Yeah, so so a couple of things. What's really important is anybody who's interacted with the president, and it's been a much smaller footprint, has been socially distanced as much as possible. They've all been wearing N95s, and whenever possible, we've done this we've done this outside with windows open.
But isn't the guidance for the person with COVID to be wearing an N95 when there are people around as well?
So, look, Peter, I think if you think about, the
Don't you love that one? He's trying to figure out how to answer this, right? In a nutshell, this guy's just a politician. His job isn't to cover for the president. His job is to give us the news and information we need to know about. We're the American people. We'd like to know and make sure our president's okay. But if he's not following the CDC guidelines, that's a little bit of a problem. And I love the aspect of, well, everybody else around him's wearing N95 masks. Isn't the purpose of the N95 and the mask in just in a nutshell for the person that's sick so they don't get everybody else sick? But you're going to have him taking pictures while he's contagious? Like we said the other day, I mean, the whole episode is about how the Democrats' messaging and the White House messaging just sucks. And it's continuing here. Again, I don't know why they're shoving this guy out. He's trying to cover for the president. He's trying to cover many other things here, which he doesn't need to be. He should have just been forthcoming and say, hey, you know what? You're right. We should meet together as a team and go over these guidelines a little bit more clear and meet with the president to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can, that he is following these guidelines so that we don't have this happen again. Like, just be forthcoming with us. Stop trying to dodge the question. Stop trying to manipulate it. Stop trying to do all these things of like, oh, well, we had the windows cracked open or we took him outside. We had the windows cracked open? Really? That's what you could come up with? That's how you know this is BS, folks. I mean, come on. Fumbling through the words, doesn't know how to answer it. Well, two things. And just, again, we've said it time and time again on the show. If you're constantly fumbling through your words, if you're constantly stuttering without having a stuttering problem, odds are you're probably lying and trying to make up something off the top of your head. And that's exactly what's happening here.
The president, he does generally wear a mask when he's around other people. He sometimes takes the mask off when he's getting a photo taken. He's been, most of his interactions with others, he has been wearing a mask. And the bottom line is that everybody around him is fully vaccinated and boosted. And he has been, I think, following CDC guidelines very carefully.
All right.
Oh, I think he's been following it. Not exactly sure. Just with a lot of stuff this guy's chauffeured out, but not exactly sure. Says one thing. Again, the doctor says something different. He gets called out for it. And he's like, oh, I got to read the notes. Again, the person that wrote the notes is the one that should be at the podium answering the people's questions rather than this guy. But I think he's been following it to his best of his ability. Oh, and everyone's vaxxed. Everyone's boosted around him. Who cares? Who cares if everyone's vaxxed and boosted? Look, I'm vaccinated. I support being vaccinated. But hey, it doesn't stop you from getting the disease. It just lessens it. But remember that whole thing of, oh, you're not going to get it. That came from Fauci. That came from Biden himself. And it comes out, oh, you're still going to get infected with it. So don't give me this whole thing of like, oh, well, they're boosted. We cracked windows. He sometimes takes his mask off. But yet you guys hounded businesses, private American businesses, and shut them down, threw them in jail when they didn't wear a mask. But yet you have Gavin Newsom going to the laundry restaurant or whatever the hell it's called, like the French Laundry or something in California, when everybody couldn't go out. Everybody had to sit home, but he's out with the elites. He's out with the people that are giving him the moolah, not wearing a mask, sitting right next to them, eating dinner. While all of us are shut down and shut in. We can't go to a restaurant. We can't go spend time with their family. Hell, people couldn't even go see their loved ones in a hospital, but that knucklehead that's part of the Democrat Party that wants to make a 2024 presidential run is going out having a grand old time. Furthermore, you have a lot of these Democrats. You have the late night talk show hosts that are always massaging and rubbing the shoulders of the Democrat Party, covering for them as well, going out to sporting events, no mask on, yada, 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 always ripping Trump for whatever he's doing, but they're not going to rip themselves and their elite friends for doing the very thing that they're calling us out for whether it's going to a Trump rally or doing something else. It's always hypocritical with the Democrat Party. I'm not saying that Republicans themselves aren't hypocritical. I just think that the Democrat Party does it a lot more and has been doing a lot more. So there you have it. Peter Doocy clearly making this guy fumble through his words. Little odd that he's supposed to be there, just giving us the news and information, not adding in his 2 cents, but going and saying words like, well, I think he's following the CDC guidelines. Oh, well, it might be this. Oh, well, I haven't actually heard the doctor say this. I don't expect you to know everything about the doctor, but then why answer the question if you don't actually know everything? Why even be up there in the first place? Again, I know I'm repeating myself. It's just frustrating because they're covering for this guy that clearly has an ailment, that clearly is suffering from some sort of dementia or some sort of cognitive decline, and they don't want to face the issue, and neither do Democrats. Democrats don't want to face that issue either. This should be like the #1 headline every single day of the president's falling. He's having a massive decline. He's saying he has cancer. He just said that he has COVID. He's saying a trigger pressure. Like, he's fighting with this teleprompter. He's falling asleep at events. All these things should be front headline news. And then what we should be doing is saying, hey, can we get a report on the president's cognitive ability? Like, can we actually get something chauffeured out in front of the American public for this guy's decline, or at least prove us wrong regarding his mental decline? Why is that not like the main story? Like I've always said, Donald Trump, when he was shaking a little bit, having a glass of water, like maybe his blood sugar level was low or something, the media lost their crap and talked about his health, that he's not capable of making decisions. We should implement the 25th Amendment, all this stuff. And you're just not seeing anything from the media. You're not seeing anything from the progressive left. You're not seeing anything from the Democrat Party in terms of getting this guy a cognitive test and then allowing all Americans who voted for this guy to see it. We all know why. The guy would fail it. He would fail it freaking so bad, it's ridiculous. And they want to show for this guy out in 2024. This guy wants to run again. It's mind-blowing. Speaking of things that are mind-blowing, we have New York City here, folks, just completely being thrown into the ground. And Democrats have been running this show in New York for quite some time now. And you had Giuliani at one point basically bringing New York into a comeback stage by getting rid of crime and being harsh on it. And now it's just, you give Democrats control and this is what happens. Look, the economy was doing great. Everything was doing great in America. Immigration was pretty much solved for the most part. We were still working on it, building the border wall, getting things done. Then Joe Biden comes in office. Look what happens with immigration. Millions of people pouring across the border, over 200,000 per month. You got terrorist, drug cartel, drugs pouring across. It's just sex trafficking. I mean, the amount of crime that's coming across the border is just mind-blowing. You have a debacle going in foreign policy. That was pretty much solved. We had peace in the Middle East. We had everything being done foreign-wise. People respecting us once again. Now look what's happened. You got a war in Ukraine. You have China wanting to do more and implement more things. And now we have our own military saying they're our greatest threat. That was a news headline today. I mean, the amount of things that Democrats have done to turn everything upside down is mind-boggling. And we're seeing it in real time with these Democrat-ran cities. I'm just merely using New York as an example here. So we have multiple video clips here regarding what's going on in New York, about 3 or 4 of them. We have a New York City teen released after allegedly assaulting a police officer in a wild, caught-on-video subway brawl, and it was sprung 3 days earlier for a violent attack and has prior arrest for gun possession. And everyone's wondering, like, why is this guy released? He's just going out committing more crime. So we got a video clip here posted by Andy No, and there's no sound on it. And for those that are listening, I'll kind of walk you through what's going on here. This is taking place in the subway system in New York. Let's go ahead and roll it. So you got 2 police officers, both African-American, okay? You got a male and female officer, and they're just raining punches on this black officer. So now you got the black officer fighting the black guy, and then you got the black woman police officer fighting his girlfriend that's also black. And I mean, now he has the officer basically in a chokehold, which is very scary. They're still grappling and fighting. The officer's clearly fighting for his life. The guy doesn't want to give up. And then they're always shocked when they get shot or something, right? They're always shocked when they get tased, and then Black Lives Matter goes out and does all these things. So they're still fighting. Just gets him to the ground, still grappling to get a hold on him. I don't know where the citizens are at on this. You got to help the officer out a little bit. Somebody needs to help the guy. So the officer has him. He's on top of him now. The woman just got apprehended by other people. Looked like some other people came in. But this is what's going on in New York all the time. This is what's going on in all Democrat and leftist ran cities where they're fighting police officers. Okay, this wasn't like a white on black thing. This was black on black, where you have a black person fighting a black police officer. Where's the racism there? Where's Black Lives Matter at on this? Where are they out shoving out this video of what not to do for young men and women, regardless of race? Because they're nowhere to be seen. They don't give a crap about the black community. They don't give a crap about New York. They don't give a crap about Minneapolis. They don't give a crap about Charlottesville. They don't give a crap about anywhere in the United States where there's predominantly a large portion of black people, because it's all in for the money. They're all for the greed. They want to buy their $6 million mansions. But yet you have this going on in New York and Democrat-ran cities all the time. And it is mind-blowing to me. And then when the cop does something, then it's all the cop's fault. It's always the cop's fault. It's never these knuckleheads' faults that are actually committing the crime. And this guy should have never been on the street anyways. He's clearly a repeat offender. And we see this in Los Angeles as well. You see this in Portland, Oregon. You see this in Seattle as well. All these leftist ran areas where they're just releasing these criminals. They're not actually doing anything with them. And sometimes there's no bond. They literally just are out free willy-nilly. It is so baffling to me that you have people that will continue to vote for the Democrat Party and allow this to happen. And it's also why they're voting for this is because it's not happening to them. That's the thing. It actually hasn't impacted them yet. And so until they actually wake up and something does impact them, then they'll realize it. It's kind of like that idea of they want to take away our guns, the Democrat Party, right? The progressive left. They're not always being outspoken about it. Some are, but they want to basically have America rid of firearms until somebody either shoots them, tries to rob them, or does something. And they're hoping that the police will come in like the next 10 to 30 seconds, nowhere to be found. I'm sure at that point they wish they had a gun. I'm sure at that point they wish they can use their Second Amendment rights to protect them and their families. But again, things aren't going to change until it impacts them. Well, we have a clip here from Fox News itself that details out what actually took place and what is going on regarding police officers in New York with them resigning and giving in their resignations. Let's go ahead and roll the clip.
Joe Cardinale is the NYPD lieutenant, retired. Joe, nice to see you and welcome back. It has happened yet again. What Brian just said is alarming. Crime is up 53% in the subways. The mayor is a former transit cop. That was his beat when he was a police officer.
Correct. 7 months in, nothing happening. So
Shocker.
I don't know what, if this doesn't demonstrate how far things have gotten out of control, I don't know what will. This would never happen years ago. Never happen.
Never?
Never. It would never happen like this because it would be, they would have the fear of being prosecuted. They would have the fear of repercussions from the police that they would go over there and force more stations like that. But that's not the conditions today. Today, cops walk around by themselves. They want to put them by themselves. We had that discussion, and thank God he wasn't by himself. He had some assistance over here. And look what we've come to. I mean, Pat Lynch is right. They would prosecute the cop faster than they would prosecute this individual.
Really?
Oh, definitely, because if the cop would have used that chokehold, that would have been front page. And thank God for Fox News. And I'm not just saying it because I'm here and I've been here.
What a great point, right? What a great point this guy's making. And we'll come back to in a second. The cop gets a chokehold on him and nobody's up in arms over it. The guy's taking punches to the face, taking body shots, being thrown to the ground. Nobody is in defense of the police officer, but everybody's going to be in defense of that guy because he's black and, police officer, police brutality and all these things. You should just read the comments of that Twitter feed from Andy No. Oh, well, he has a taser, he has a baton, though. Those two should be good enough to get the guy subdued. Aren't they trained with all this? Like, it just shows you some people are just dumb. I mean, some people are really dumb. And I guess we shouldn't be surprised by that because we see dumb people all the time. They just so happen to be in the White House and on The View. So let's go ahead and continue this clip from Fox News.
Because this station is the only one that brings this to light. This is not being covered on the other stations the way it's covered here. And so only the people that watch this station will really get the gist of what's happening. So this has to be outrage amongst all New Yorkers, and it's not happening. And I don't understand.
It's all big cities across America. I appreciate the compliment on that. But, Joe, here's what Pat Lynch said. From the union, the criminals underground know they can get in a brawl, choke a cop, and be back out in hours. Cops are putting ourselves on the line to make sure the subways are safer, but we're feeling abandoned by a justice system that will not back us up.
It's not the justice system, it's the Democrat Party.
Right. I mean, what did Mayor Adams do when he went up to Albany? Did he run to protect his cops? Did he put that foremost, that this is the issue up there? Or did he put the fact that he wants to control the schools on the table first? And that's what he came back with. He didn't come back with a plan for these cops. These cops are out there by themselves, fighting every day by themselves. Thank God they have the union backing them up and each other, because they definitely do not have the support of this city council, this mayor, or this government. It has nothing to do.
Here are the numbers, Joe. To date in New York now, 2,119 officers have left the job, 1,472 retiring, 647 resigning. That number of resignations is significant, because when you resign, you leave without your pension. You're turning your back on your career. That's a big statement.
That's a major statement. I said it before, this was the job people ran to. Now it's the job they're running away from. All right, they're going down to Florida. They're going to other areas where cops are appreciated, right? Where they know they can still be a cop and still, get the appreciation from the public, from the government, from whoever they're serving. But in New York, it's a thankless job right now. It's thankless, and it's pretty soon with the mass exodus, it's going to be the blind leading the blind, because you do not have the expertise that's being passed down from one cop to another cop to say, handle situations like this, do what you have to do. It's really become, we're in dire straits right now.
Well, just in Chicago last weekend, and they have a similar story, where the police are leaving the Chicago Police Department and they're going to work for other towns, smaller towns, where they believe that they've got greater protection.
Republican conservative
How sad
towns
is that?
is where they're
How
going.
sad is that you sign up for a career? All right, it's like almost like if you went into journalism, if you turn around and they started getting really bad and you just said, you know what, I'm throwing the towel in after 20 years, 30 years. It's sad. It's the same thing for the cops. They don't want to leave the jobs. They're being forced. What alternative do they have when no matter which way you turn in this city, you're going to get prosecuted? That they'll prosecute you faster than they will the people that are assaulting you in the subways.
Something's got to change. Joe, thanks for coming back today.
Anytime, Bill.
Craziness, folks. Craziness coming from New York. And that's not even to the extent of it. I mean, this crime is obviously happening in Chicago, like you just heard. Police officers leaving there. They're going to Florida and localities. And I want to be specific of where they're going. They're going to red areas. They're not going to blue areas. They're not going to leftist ran areas like Los Angeles, right? They're not going to Portland, Oregon. They're not going to Seattle, Washington. No. They're going to red areas because they know they're going to be appreciated by those in the red areas. And it's just astonishing here that the assault of our officers in the subway system is an example of emboldened by a system that just days ago immediately released one of them after being arrested for robbery. Days for just having robbery. And then people are completely baffled. I'm talking about the Democrats of, oh my God, that guy committed another crime. I thought he'd be okay. I thought he might have learned his lesson. He had a couple days in jail. I mean, I thought he would have just got it. No. The 16-year-old, whose name is being withheld due to his age, was captured in a 54-second clip throwing more than 20 punches at an officer, slamming the cop into a metal gate and dragging him on the floor in a chokehold. But again, Black Lives Matter, nowhere to be found. Nancy Pelosi, nowhere to be found. Maxine Waters, nowhere to be found. AOC, nowhere to be found. Chuck Schumer, nope. Bernie Sanders, nope. Ilhan Omar, nope. All these people are so quick to be out there with Black Lives Matter, always so quick to say America's racist, always so quick to say our institutions are racist, always so quick to say that police brutality is at an alarming rate. All these things, when this is mainstream, nowhere to be found, because they don't care. They have an agenda to push, and they're going to do everything they can to make sure that agenda does get pushed, which is why you saw them say, oh, well, no other station's covering it like you guys are, Fox. No other station's even really covering it at all, basically. Why? Because again, it's not a white police officer going against a black guy. It's black on black. And now it doesn't fit their narrative. So there's that. Also, we have, again, I don't even know what you would call this, a partying in the bus subway system. It's odd to me, but there's people twerking, drinking on public transportation in New York. This is what happens. Again, this is what happens when you let Democrats run the show. Let's roll it. I'm going to bring it down because that's just annoying music. I would like to point out that this is acceptable in Democrat-ran areas. That this is all acceptable, but I guarantee you, if you try to click on this video right now, it's going to at some point have an 18 years old or older flag, or that it's inappropriate or something like that, inappropriate for young viewers. But this is the stuff that they're doing in public on the subway system. Drinking, twerking, wearing thongs, grinding up on each other, doing all these things. I don't know if this is for a music video because there's cameras around. I don't know what is going on, but there's some crazy stuff happening in. I mean, there's a midget there or a small person. I don't know what we can refer to them as. A dwarf. I mean, again, the language always changes. You just had a chick twerking a dog. I mean, this is wild, and you don't even know what's real and what isn't anymore. That's the thing. Is our social media has gone so insane that I can't tell if they're doing a music video because that's gotten so grungy, or if this is actually just happening in real life because it does happen in real life. I can't tell anymore between reality and just make believe creators going out there filming stuff anymore, but it's happening in leftist ran areas. I can't remember the last time I've seen something. Well, I've never seen something like this, but just things that we're seeing with the twerking, the drag shows, the gender indoctrination. I can't recall, at least at the top of my head, I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but something like that happening in a conservative ran area, a Republican ran area, a red area. It's all happening. The crime is primarily happening, at least in large numbers, in leftist ran areas. The drag shows are, the indoctrination, the pride, all this stuff is happening in Democrat ran areas, and they just don't see it. They don't see it. I can't believe that people are still blind to all of it. That's the mind-blowing thing. Either they're awakened to it, they don't want to admit it and lie to themselves, that they just don't see it. They watch it, but they're like, oh, well, it's fine to me. It's not impacting me. I'm going to continue to vote Democrat. There's not crime in my neighborhood. I'm still good with it. I don't know. There's so many reasons as to why I guess somebody would still vote for Democrat. I'm bewildered. By the way, at a young age, I was a Democrat myself. My father is the one that helped me transition into conservatism, into being a Republican. If it wasn't for him, I would have been a Democrat and not have woken myself either. So maybe in a nutshell, some part of me gets it. In our last news story of the day, the United States is expected to lag other advanced economies in growth. Gee, I wonder why. Probably because you got a dollar in office that can't read from a teleprompter, that falls off his bike sitting stationary, that hits a golf ball backwards, falls asleep during major meetings, goes to Saudi Arabia, fist bumps the Saudis, doesn't get anything in return, doesn't get any oil, tells us he wants to have more domestic oil production, while at the same time he says he wants to get rid of all fossil fuels, have a zero carbon footprint, and push this electric vehicle hubbub. So the International Monetary Fund, IMF, expects much lower global economic growth. According to World Economic Outlook report released on Tuesday, the worldwide economy is expected to grow 3.2% in 2020 and 2.9% in 2023, which mark respective 0.4% and 0.7% downward revisions from the International Financial Institution's April forecast, according to the report. Quote, the risks of the outlook are overwhelmingly tilted to the downside, the IMF explained. Among other factors, the group cites supply chain issues, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, debt distress in emerging markets, renewed COVID lockdowns, and persistent inflationary pressures. Why is that quote so important? It's because there's all these things going on, but you have Joe Biden going out there and basically telling and demanding oil companies to start drilling more. But if you have supply chain issues, which is going to impact drilling as well, you have obviously the Russian invasion going on. One thing that's not listed is China's still basically in a lockdown itself and hasn't actually come back full-fledged into the global market, which is going to affect fuel prices as well. It does say you have distress in emerging markets, renewed COVID lockdowns, and persistent inflationary pressures. But if you're going to have renewed COVID lockdowns, why would you go take millions of dollars in investments, get your drilling permits and the contracts, everything that you need, start drilling when there's a volatile market that could still lead to more COVID lockdowns, which you'd have billions of dollars in losses once again, of which they just had during the COVID lockdowns. So Joe Biden's going to keep pushing this whole thing when you have economists, you have the international financial institutions showing data that's in a downward spiral, but he wants all these crazy things, including windmills, wind turbines in the Gulf. But he's going to shell out billions of dollars for that, throw billions of dollars at Ukraine, while we're like $20+ trillion in debt. Just all makes sense, doesn't it? It's just, I feel like we live in the upside down in Stranger Things. Quote, with increasing prices continuing to squeeze living standards worldwide, taming inflation should be the first priority for policymakers. The report said, tighter monetary policy will inevitably have real economic costs, but delay will only exacerbate them. Targeted fiscal support can help cushion the impact on the most vulnerable. But with government budgets stretched by the pandemic and the need for deflationary overall macroeconomic policy stance, such policies will need to be offset by increased taxes or lowering government spending, which isn't going to happen. One, you have Democrats in office. Do you think they want to lower taxes at all? No. They want to increase taxes. But the main point that I want to make, lower government spending, really? And this goes for both Republicans and Democrats. They ain't going to lower any sort of government spending. They're always blowing out the budget. I mean, literally, during COVID, you had spending more money than literally every single president in U.S. history. So they're not going to lower the government spending. They always want to increase government spending. It is wild on how much our government doesn't care about a budget, doesn't care about any of those things. Why do we have a budget in the first place? I mean, we go through line item after line item and all these things, and they just blow it out anyways. They could just print all the money they want. And then when inflation skyrockets, they're always looking around going, oh, I haven't. I can't believe that happened. Well, whose fault's it going to be? Who can we blame it on? Let's blame it on Putin. Oh, crap, but they're not really believing the Putin thing. Oh, let's blame it on the oil companies. Oh, they're not really blaming it on the oil companies. Oh, let's blame it on the gas stations. Oh, they're not really holding on to that. It's all my fault. Like, they're always baffled when inflation goes through the roof after they just got done pumping the economy full of money. And then you have California, and I've mentioned this before, California wants to give out more stimulus checks and are going to help curb inflation, to help curb the idea that there's inflation with fuel prices. You can't make this idiocracy up. The guy that wants to help curb inflation by pumping California with more money is possibly going to make a 2024 presidential run. Why is it only idiots run for office? Honestly, I don't get it. Citing significantly less momentum in private consumption, in part reflecting the erosion of household purchasing power and the expected impact of a steeper tightening in monetary policy, the IMF cut growth forecast for the United States to 2.3 in 2022 and 1% in 2023, downward revisions of 1.4% and 1.3% from the April estimates. So it's never a good sign when you have an estimate and then you basically do worse than the estimate, because sometimes there's a grace period, or at least a portion of grace within those estimates. Are like, hey, you know what? Let's just kind of like fix the number just a little bit in favor so that if things were to get worse, that it doesn't look as bad, but it still looks terrible because numbers are just going down, not just in the United States, but on a global level as well. The United States is therefore expected to recover more slowly through 2023 than the average advanced economy, while China, folks, is slated to grow at 3.3% and 4.6%. I am laughing because this is what you get. Remember when Joe Biden looked at Donald Trump? He said, hey, Donald, China's going to eat your lunch, man. No, it looks like China's going to eat your lunch, Biden, because they're doing better than we are. So they create this virus in the Wuhan lab. Nobody penalizes China. I am still waiting for China to get in trouble for this. For the love of God, everybody's always citing the UN and all these things and, blah, 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 regarding the globe and human rights violations and all these things. Where is anybody talking about China? It's been 2 years now, and we're still waiting for this thing to happen with China getting penalized in some way, shape, or form regarding this, but now they're doing better than us. They create this virus that kills a ton of people, shuts down the entire world, the entire planet, and now they're doing better than basically everybody else. Go figure. Isn't that amazing? Leave it up to Joe Biden to not do a damn thing with China. And we all know why. We all know why he's not doing anything. Because China probably has some baggage on him regarding the Hunter Biden deals. There's probably something there. But again, Democrats don't want to look under the hood. They want to focus on this January 6th debacle. There's nothing there. And it's amazing. I've always told you guys, I really do read the comments. I have an app on my phone. I just swipe and I read them. I'll try to comment when I can. But it's like the comments on this January 6th thing coming from Democrats that are watching the show, put it in there. It's just mind-blowing. It's stupid. They actually think this guy's going to get prosecuted. They think Eric Garland's really going to prosecute Donald Trump based on what's happened. The guy doesn't have anything. He's not going to do it. It's like that whole idea that you saw Republicans holding on that Donald Trump's going to be back in office during Joe Biden's term. It's fantasy land, folks. Some of these people need to wake up and realize and smell the roses that certain things just aren't plausible. It's not going to happen. It's a theater show. It's all for show for the Democrats. They have nothing to run on November. Literally not a single thing to run on. This is all they have. It's like a last-ditch effort to save themselves so that things won't be as bad in November. That's why they're drawing this out. They got nothing on the guy. You didn't have anything with the Russia collusion whole aspect, the witch hunts. They got nothing on this. Once again, just wasting more taxpayer dollars is really where it's at. Citing significantly less momentum in private consumption. That's going to be happening not just in 2022, but again in 2023. Quote, further supply-related shocks to food and energy prices from the war in Ukraine. Again, with this war in Ukraine thing. Could sharply increase headline inflation and pass through the core inflation, triggering a further tightening in monetary policy. Labor market tightness is historically high in several economies, and workers could increasingly demand compensation for past increases in the cost of living. The dismal report comes ahead of the Bureau of Economic Analysis, pushing an advanced estimate of second quarter gross domestic product growth later this week. Again, we said that the economy shrank 1.6% annualized in April to June. Because the economy likewise contracted in a 1.5% rate in the first quarter, the United States may have experienced 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth, meeting the rule of thumb for a recession. But again, this is just a slow transition of growth phase, according to the Treasury Secretary. It's not an actual recession. They literally, the White House literally redefined what a recession was because of how bad things have gotten, that they don't want to admit it, because it's just another thing to put on the list in terms of Joe Biden running this country into the ground. So if they could just redefine things, which they've done, right, with male and female, biological sex, gender, they just continually redefine things to fit their narrative, and everybody goes along with it. And so now we got to deal with the language aspect of everything. So they're just going to go along with their narrative of redefining things by redefining the recession. I'm telling you, it is such a dangerous game to play if you're constantly redefining things. You will fail as a country. At some point, America is going to fail if we continue down this path of redefining our language, redefining certain aspects to fit a narrative. It's going to fall down into the drain so quick. I hope I'm not around if it is going to happen at some point, which I do think it is. When you have elected officials that are sworn in to uphold the Constitution, but are going after freedom of speech and the Second Amendment. I was talking with my buddy. I just couldn't believe that Jerry Nadler, the Democrat Party, are so gung-ho on removing our Second Amendment rights to bear arms. Like, let that sink in for a little bit, that they're fighting us on the Bill of Rights. You think we're going to have a country at some point? You think there's going to be a civil war at some point? I think there truly is. When you have elected officials, politicians going after our rights, yeah, I think that we're heading in a very, very bad direction as a country. I know a lot of people don't want to admit it, but I'm not even saying it's happening in our lifetime, but we're clearly going in a downward trajectory in terms of our society, in terms of where we're at. And I do think at some point we will have a civil war here, because you're going to have politicians from the left. It's not going to be Republicans. You're going to have politicians from the left that are going to remove your rights. And you know what the left will say about Republicans? Oh, well, they're removing our rights to an abortion. They're removing women's rights. But they don't get through their thick skulls. Those rights never existed in the first place. At least the rights that we're talking about right now were actually created during the founding of this country. They've always been there. But you have Supreme Court justices in past cases wanting to literally say that they've made up rights, that they just found them. They literally just found them. It's not coming from me. It's not coming from Donald Trump. It's not coming from conservatives and Republicans. This is coming from the left. This is coming from the people that put that stuff in place back when Griswold v. Connecticut was being ruled on. So you can't say that, oh, we're moving your rights. The rights never existed. If you want that right, then put it in place. Put an amendment in there. But no, you don't want to go that route. You just want to shout and cry and scream to the skies. So there you have it. Peter Doocy making the White House fumble through their words. Once again, it's always a sight to behold. And I don't know if you noticed when he's holding the paper, he got a little giddy. You know, you got to be giddy when you're Peter Doocy, when you know you got something good and you're about to watch them and you're about to make major headlines again because the White House isn't prepared for anything Peter Doocy has to throw at them. Then you got the New York City just completely going down the drain once again. They need to elect a conservative. They need to elect a Republican, get a Republican legislature in office over there in the state legislature. They need to just have it be read again, figure it out, rebuild it like we always have to do and like we're going to have to do when Trump or DeSantis comes back in office in 2024. And when you get the November elections coming around, at least we can start getting some real work done in this country. And then you have, look at, we're behind China. We're freaking behind China. Unbelievable. Well, folks, that is all the news I have for you today. As always, support the Bald Brad Show by hitting that like and subscribe button. And I'll see you tomorrow here on the Bald Brad Show.